Good evening and welcome to Fireside Talks. I am Leonora and tonight we have with us the lovely Nina Cruz. So Nina, welcome to tonight's talk. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So Nina is a certified conscious parent coach, a social worker, and a meditation teacher. In her private coaching practice, she supports parents to become aware of the generational patterns that are playing out in their everyday life that could be contributing to increased stress, anxiety, overwhelm, and a feeling of disconnection. Nina supports parents to gain a new sense of awareness through knowledge and understanding of their own narrative so that they can create a new blueprint for themselves and their family. I'm so excited to have you on, Nina, and to have this conversation, which I'm sure will shed a lot of light on this topic. So would you like to introduce today's talk and we can open up the ground for questions later on?
Yeah, sure. That would be
Fantastic.
great.
You're welcome.
Tonight it's tonight because it's morning time where I am, but I know it's evening where you are. So tonight I'm going to talk about how we can create a quantum shift in our parenting and in our life. And so what is a quantum shift? Basically, a quantum shift is having a massive shift in our life, in our awareness, in our thinking, in our belief system, in our behaviors. And it means we go down, we can no longer go down the prescribed path. We have to start to shift our thinking and we have to start to create some change and a big ripple in our life. So it's a massive shift that we can experience. And so basically we all have like an emotional home that we live in our mind, not our beautiful homes, but the one in our head. And we, it's full of emotional patterns. It's full of ways of thinking. Emotional home, sets the stage for our life. So yeah, this emotional home that we can live in, it's, it could be full of not enough. It could be playing out patterns and programs of, I can't do it, why me, that like kind of victim mode and that martyrdom mode. It could be playing out, why does everybody else seem to, be getting this parenting gig right and I'm really struggling? Or it could be, it's always my fault. There's so many conditioned ways of thinking and being that we have that have been conditioned since we're a child. And these play out in our everyday life. And we have a set point that we go back to. So the emotional home, the vibration of our emotional home might be, say, here. And, whatever's happening in our life, we tend to feel bad about something or guilty. And where we really desire to be is up here. We want to feel better. We want to, vibrate higher. But the challenge is we can't get to up here with the same kind of thinking that's keeping us stuck in the same loops. So yes, we have these emotional homes and, they feed our thoughts, they feed our feelings, our actions and our behaviors, and they just keep looping around. And we have like this set point that we go to. And this was like conditioned into us. And so it's kind of like works like a thermostat where, something happens and it's constantly being regulated back to this set point. So maybe that is just feeling bad about myself or feeling guilty or feeling like I'm never doing enough or I'm not enough. So we have this set point, that gets regulated. So we may have a really great high and we're going, and then we just gradually come back to this set point. And this set point is like just our home. It's where we're so comfortable living. We're comfortable in guilt, or we're comfortable in feeling this not enough feeling, or and we use people, our child, our external environment to cement and clarify that, yep, this is with the home we live in. You know, yep, okay, I am not the best parent. You know, I really don't have it together. Everybody else has got it together, and my child is the hard child. And so we just keep coming back to this set point. So my emotional home for a majority of my life, little did I realize, it was quite comfortable there, was full of guilt. It was fear and anxiety. I was full of anxiety. Life was happening to me, not for me. And it was just, you know, not really a safe feeling to be in. You know, it was full of, why me? It's always my fault. I just can't get it right. My child, I'm not the best parent. Why is everybody parenting so well? And I'm feeling like I'm just not getting it right. And what is wrong with me? And these kind of thought processes that were going on, which would then feed how I'd feel. Then it would feed my behavior and just keep looping around. So then I had children, and, you know, I have 2 children, and one of my ways of thinking was control. One of my patterns is control. So, you know, I would do whatever I could to control the external. So I felt some kind of sense of control on the inside. But what I found was the more I was trying, whatever I was trying to control was actually controlling me. So I was just allowing everything on the outside to be pulling me. And, you know, in reality, I just felt chaotic inside, and my world, the mirror to my inner world would be matched on the outside of me. So, you know, not only was I feeling it inside, but the outside was also matching how I was feeling inside. And my children were definitely not going to allow me to continue this generational pattern of control. So, you know, they put up a fight. They were not going to allow me to just control them. And, you know, I came to realize that the consequence of me staying in this pattern and this program and this paradigm was a disconnect from my children, because, you know, every time I would come at them with any kind of control energy, they would resist and we would disconnect. And I realized that if I was wanting to have a connected relationship with them, I needed to get out of my own way. I needed to change. And as we all know, with conscious parenting, it is not about the child, it's about the parent. So I needed to change. And so how do we have a change? How do we shift from the same old ways of being and doing and thinking to have this, you know, quantum leap and change the way we're being in the world, which is a combination of our thoughts and our feelings and then our behaviors? How do we change? And in order to have a big shift in our life, we have to have a paradigm shift. So what is a paradigm? Basically, a paradigm is a mental programs, patterns that almost have exclusive control over how we behave habitually. And most of our behaviors are habitual. So we need to start to think about what we've been thinking about, which, you know, turns the spotlight on us and, you know, it can be quite uncomfortable because we have to start to shine a light on what's going on beneath the surface and, you know, get under the hood and under the bonnet and see what's actually pulling the strings. And this can be quite confronting. So we have to do like a dig, you know, a little bit of a dig and get curious and see what is playing out beneath the surface and what's going on, what's pulling the strings. So the first step to any kind of change is getting aware, having that conscious awareness. So that's the first step, to find out what's going on. And then we want to recondition the mind to a new mind, to actually how we desire to be in the world and how we desire to parent and how we desire to live or how we want to feel. So yeah, with my parenting paradigm, or my paradigm of control in my life, you know, I had to start to look at what were my fears, because I grew up in that paradigm of lack and scarcity, which is majority of us grow up in, and we're like incubated in it. So my brain naturally will go to the fear, the worry, the worst case scenario. And so how do we start to pull ourselves away from those pathways that are, you know, so cemented, they're so well trodden on. We go down those pathways easily. The path is cleared for us. How do we create some new pathways in our brain, some new neural pathways, so we can stop going down the old roads and the old pathways to create a new result in our life? Because in order to create a new result, we need to have some new thinking, some new thought processes, and we need to create some new roads to travel down. So, for example, you know, if you want to stop yelling at your child, you know, constantly yelling, it's easy to go down to the path of reactivity, because, you know, something happens in our external environment and right, that's it. We want to stop it. We want to shut it down because it doesn't make us feel good inside. So we yell. And yes, that might shut the behavior down, and, you know, our child might be fearful of us, but that doesn't actually get to the root of what's going on. So in order to have a shift and start to behave and think and behave in a new way, we need to create that new pathway. And the new pathway in our brain, what we wire together in our brain fires together. So we start to create that new pathway. So for example, if we're yelling, we would slow it all down. We would have that conscious pause, and we'd stop and breathe and pull our mind into the present moment and focus on what's going on in our body, and, you know, zip our mouth. Maybe you need to bite your tongue. And so we don't have that reactivity. We don't just instantly go down the path of yelling. We're creating those new synaptic pathways, the new neural pathways in our brain to show us there is another way. And so the more we do that behaviors, the repetition is important. Repetition is what plugs in any kind of habit or behavior into our subconscious brain. We have to do it on repetition. We have to keep repeating the same pattern that we want to create, the new pattern. So we may one day, all of a sudden, you know, we're doing really well and we're going down and we're stopping reactivity, but one day we may, oh my gosh, realize and gain awareness, oh, I'm going down that pathway again. And we pull ourselves out of the known, which is the way we've always done things, into that unknown space, that new space of consciously pausing, breathing, and non-reactivity, not yelling at our child. So also what's interesting is our paradigms, the way we're thinking and the habits we have actually can trigger the law of manifestation. They actually trigger what we manifest in our life, which I think is pretty interesting. But what I also found vitally helpful, not only for myself, but for clients, is the visioning work. Now, my children are highly energetic. They pick up my energy, and I've tested it out. And so what I found really great with the visioning work was that when I got really clear of my vision and how I wanted to live, how I wanted to feel, what kind of paradigms and patterns I wanted to be playing out in my life and habitual behaviors. When I got really clear on that and started to plug in the new ways of being, how I wanted my children to feel when they saw me, what did I want them to experience when they were in my presence? How did I want to feel as a parent? And, you know, what was important to me and my beliefs, what did I truly believe, not what I was conditioned to believe. When I got really clear on that, it creates order in our mind. It gives our mind some sense of order. So when we are challenged in those moments and, you know, of reactivity and possibly going down those old pathways, we have a new framework, a new way of being with our thoughts and our feelings that we can go to. So it's like we don't go on an airplane without a destination. We don't just hop on and go, yeah, I'm just going to go wherever we're going. We always know where we're going to go. There is a destination. Now, it's not that we get fixed on having that has to play out exactly the way I want it. We have the vision, we connect emotionally to the vision, and we surrender and we allow it, whatever to happen. But what I found, and I've experimented with my children, is the more I connect to my vision. So before they wake up in the morning, you know, connecting to myself, connecting to how I want to feel as a parent this morning. How do I want the morning to play out? How do I want them to feel with me? How, you know, do I want to experience the morning together instead of chaos, crazy, yelling, whatever might be going on to get out the door for school? The more I plug into that, they wake up. I've had moments where they will hug me and sometimes they're like, go away. When I don't plug into it, they're like, leave me alone, get out. I don't want you, you know, it's constantly. But I've watched the more I plug into that vision and that feeling, and I'm vibrating up where I want to be, not down in my conditioned home, you know, they are different. They respond differently to me. And that's, you know, it's been incredible when I'm connected to the energy of like how I want to be and how I want to experience parenting. Aside from my old conditioning, which was feeling bad, feeling guilt. And what happened with my old conditioning was the behaviors would be that I would do everything I could to control the outside. I would please people. I would make everybody happy. If everybody was happy, then I was okay, you know? And I was just giving my power away, and everything on the outside was controlling me. So when I started to do this visioning work and really plug into it, and I noticed the shifts with my children, and even if they're having a meltdown or a moment, I was able to go to this kind of new version, this new home higher up above than where I'd been vibrating. And I could go there and hold this vision in my mind. And it really gave me clarity. It gave me order instead of allowing my mind to go to the worst case scenario. My kids are, you know, so hard. Why did I become a parent? I mean, we've all been in these homes and these places. You know, it's so hard. Why does everybody have it together? And the more I started to plug in and choose that new pathway, the more the shift or the changes I would see different results in my life and with my children. So the exciting thing about this is that we get to be the creator of our life. We no longer are victims to the circumstances in our life, nor victims to what's playing out in the outside world. And we can also use, you know, the universal law of attention to our advantage, because what we focus on expands. So if we're focusing on, we're not enough, my child is driving me mad. And that's not to say we can't go there. It's not like bypassing those feelings. We acknowledge them and we move through them, but we choose again. We don't have to stay that. And we start to be able to connect to what we truly want to create and what we want to expand in our life, because it's so easy to go down those old, well-oiled pathways. But if we want to have a quantum leap and a big shift in our life, we have to start to be thinking differently and feeding those loops, different thoughts, which will feed different feelings, different experiences, and different behaviors. So before I finish, I wanted to actually read a poem. Let me just grab it, which I thought was quite fitting for what I've been chatting about. So it's called There's a Hole in My Sidewalk, a poem by Portia Nelson. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend that I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there and still fall in. It's a habit, but my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. So yeah, that's it.
That was beautiful. Lauren, do you have any questions as we carry on? Any questions from anyone? No. I have a question.
Yes.
What I really like is the mention of the energetic vibration and also the calling in of law of attraction and manifestation and being able to choose again. So in parenting specifically, where you're constantly going through so many different stages of your child growing and developing, so you go through a particular stage and you get a very good grasp on that stage, and just as you become a master of that stage, you're thrown into another stage, right? So how do you maintain the consistency of being in that place where you're vibrating high, because you don't have that sense of control with parenting and having to go through the evolution of how your child develops? And for me, I was able to resonate with you quite deeply with that, because I also love to control, and I understood completely where you're coming from when you were saying that your inner world was a reflection of your outer world, and the anxiety and the stress, etc. That was me. So I understand and I identify with that. And so I feel like when you're in that stage, control is a coping mechanism by which you can sort of feel like I can manage this the way that I need to. Now, when you talk about a paradigm shift in respects to not affecting your children and not letting your stuff rub off on them, especially for children who are sensitive and pick up on your energy. Well, all children do, right? I shouldn't say that, but how do you maintain your thermostat or reset it so that it doesn't go back to the norm that it was once set at? Because because you'll always go back to that norm, right? You'll always go back to what it was once set at, but how do you reset it so that it has a different baseline, so that when you go through these challenges, you're not
Yes.
fluctuating with vibration.
Yes, yes. So we obviously have that habit of going back to that way of our home where we feel comfortable. So we have to create a whole new home. We have to create we're going to have like a buffer zone where we create that awareness, because we know when we're going back to that home, we become aware of it. And when we become aware of that paradigm or that pattern playing out, then we're actually not the pattern in the program. We're actually the awareness behind it. So we can see it. We're watching it. Okay, I notice I'm going back there. And then we have to use our higher faculties, which are like discipline and will. We have to have a will and an energy greater than the program itself, that in that lower vibration. We have to have, that's why the visioning really supports us, and using our imagination, because we have to have somewhere else to go to. Because it's like, as I said, going on an airplane, if you don't know, if you don't know where you want to go, how will you know where you're getting there? Kind of, you don't know. So in our life, we manifest what we are in harmony with. So looking at where is my emotional home really helps to support us shift that vibration. And it's not saying, it's wrong or it's this, it's just accepting that this is where I can go to, but then taking that leap and what do I want to create? But repetition and plugging into that new home and that new feeling and that new energy and vibration every day. It has to be a practice every day, because the weeds automatically grow. The old habits will come in, but the more we get aware of it, the more we can spot them and yank them out and go, hang on a minute. It's like, when you're trying to lose weight and, you're like, right, Monday, I'm starting the diet. And, you all of a sudden you go somewhere and there's this cake, and, you've had a problem, a challenge with your son or your daughter, and you're like not feeling that great. And you're like, yeah, I didn't really do the right thing. I don't feel really great. You're proving your old paradigm. Yeah, I'm not really the best mum. But you see the cake and you're like, oh, why not? I only live once. Let's just have it, And then you're in that same loop, because then, you go, okay, well, you know what? I'll start next Monday again. You just start the diet. And then you just prove that, well, I can't stick to anything. I'm not a great parent. I've got no willpower, and you're constantly just using external situations or people or our children to confirm the home that we've lived in. Like it just becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, I do belong in that home. That is me. And if we want to shift to that higher space, we need to create something new, because we have our higher faculties of imagination. I mean, we can get really creative with what kind of home do we want to live in. And when we start to tap into the imagination and our visioning, it's incredible what will open up. And where you might go to, something's challenging with your child, and you get some, hit, like some download, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that, or I'm going to be, you start to open up to more possibilities of, instead of being in this rigid way of thinking and feeling and doing and being kind of thing.
I feel like you were watching my dialogue about cake.
Oh, it's funny.
You know what? I wanted to take this back, because I absolutely love this conversation, and I love the fact that we're talking about a set point, because I think a lot of us don't recognize it as something that we need to be aware of. And I think one of the things that I learned really early on as I was exploring emotions and the impact of emotions on our body is that because emotions come with a sort of a chemical cocktail within our body, there's actually the potential of getting addicted to that chemical set. And so you want to come back to that because that's where inside you feel safe and you feel soothed because you're addicted to that mix of chemicals. And that when you think that that mix could be in the same place of feeling not enough and feeling guilty and feeling shame, it's eye opening about something that we could be living with completely unaware of. So what I wanted to really ask here was, for those of us that are not aware of that emotional set point and what it may be for us, how do we begin to even explore what's happening within our minds to find where our set point is?
Yeah. So we kind of have to we have to look inside and start to become aware of what we've been unaware to. So we have to kind of do an inventory. You know, you can set out a whole week and start to write down, what am I thinking about? And you know, and what you'll notice is there's a definite theme, there's a definite flavor going on. It could be the not enough flavor, it could be the not worthy enough flavor. And you'll start to notice what's going on, and then you start to notice it playing out with your children or your partner. And the more you can become aware of the thoughts, the feelings, and the behaviors, the more then you have power to shift them. And yeah, you're completely right. We're addicted to emotions. We're addicted to certain patterns because they just confirm that identity that we believe we are, you know, which was being plugged in as a child or plugged in through our life experiences. And yeah, in order to break free and have that leap, we need to start to think about what we're thinking about and become aware of it. Because as I said, once we notice it, then we can make a different choice. And that's where our will comes in, that energy greater than the program itself. We have to send out you know, like make a decision with such velocity that we're like, you know what, no more. I will not yell anymore at my child. And that has to just ripple out and have such an intensity that you can't go back to that old way. You can't go back to that known reality. You're starting to live from that, the unknown and creation, which is this opposite to fear and lack and same kind of behaviors.
If so let's say we went through that journal exercise and we're able to kind of pinpoint what seems to be like our set point, so we can see that not enoughness is probably coming up for us. Do you have any tips on what should be our very next steps in terms of trying to be able to address that and change that narrative from not enoughness to I have everything that I need within me?
Yeah. So a lot of that is shifting the model of how you look at life. Instead of life happening to me, it's happening for me. And all my experiences in life are there to help me grow and evolve. And they're, you know, awakening me in certain ways. So it's like flipping a switch. It's like, you know, the sun is always shining even when a cloud goes in front of it. So we need to connect to the truth of who we are, which is abundant, infinite being, infinite possibilities that we have. And so in order to stop going down that not enough, we have to make a decision, because we get addicted. We get addicted to go down the same pathway, and then we need to create a completely opposing pathway, generally opposite, polar opposite in energy to what we've been going down. So it's not a matter of just, you know, like positive thinking and going, yes, I'm going to be this. We need to start connecting to our essence. And it's through this visioning process and through, you know, having a new mental script that can really help us start to plug in. We want to rewire our brain. And that rewiring occurs through not only knowledge, but it's application of knowledge. We need to apply it in our life. So, you know, we don't go down reactivity. We don't yell. And then we go, wow, I didn't yell at my child. Look what I did. And we start to build new experiences and see how, you know, incredible and amazing we are. We have the power to be a cause to the effect in our life. And look at that. We start to notice where we're being different or the changes we're making. And that starts to give us a new script and a new kind of like way of being. We, you know, we, instead of, you know, listening to those voices of I'm not good enough or I'm not this, you start to go, wow, look, I actually have a journal of all my new memories, you know, new memories, because it's so easy to go back to the old memories. And like my brain will take me back to, I didn't do enough. My, you know, oh my God, I missed the boat. I should have known all this stuff, preconception. You know, my brain loves to tell me, or my mind loves to tell me, my conditioning, that you should have known everything. You should have known it all before you began parenting. So it's so easy to go there. And I have to tell that part of me, thank you, but you're not welcome anymore. It's like a visitor. Thank you for arriving, but I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you my energy. And then we use the law of attention, of what we put our focus and energy on expands. And then we go, okay, what do I truly want to expand in my life? Okay, I actually want to create this incredible life. I'm not going to create an incredible family life or a credible business if I stay at this spot. You can't get there from the same thinking and behaving. So we have to have this practice. It becomes a practice. Yeah.
I love it. Lawrence asked if we can talk more about the visioning process.
Yes. So basically, it's like a shopping list. It's like going out to the supermarket without a budget. Imagine that. You're like, oh my God, what do I want? And you just start to write down what you want. How do I want to feel? What is my ideal day? And it's not, see, the thing is, it's not fixing on, oh my God, this didn't happen. And then you go back to the set point, or you go back to the same way. That's just creating the same problem. It's allowing yourself to start to experience, you know, what you truly desire, because we grow up saying you can't, you know, you grow up like, oh, you can't have that, or that's too expensive for you, or whatever. And it just limits us. It limits us. So we just start to, you know, play out the same program of limitation. You know, you want to buy a house. Oh, that house is just too much for us. It's a dream. We want to start to listen to our inner knowings and create that shopping list, create that vision of what we truly desire. How do you want to feel? How do you want to be behaving? Like my desire is that I arrive, whatever space I arrive in, I leave it better than when I arrived, you know? And so I go there. If I have something to go to, or I have a mum's meeting or whatever, that's what I want to create. So what do you want to create? With my children, I want them to feel seen and heard, and that I listen. I want to be present with them. And so when we have that vision and that way of being and what we desire, when we are out of alignment and off track, because we've plugged it in so much, we're like, oh, I'm not there. And it helps to rewire us back to what we're committed to and back to what we want. Because the reality is, the early years, our children are not with us in our care for long. And how do we want them to experience, you know, when they're older, look back. This is how I felt with my mother, or this is how I felt with my father, or they were always there for me. They always listened. And these are the things we want to connect to, and we need to have a complete shift in our mind, a mind topple kind of thing.
I love that. Do you have a practice of reviewing your progress along the way?
Well, as I say, I now write my new memories of what went really well, because if I write down what didn't go well, I just focus on what didn't go well. So I learned from what didn't maybe work out. I learned from it and I let it go, because I know my paradigm will go back to that I just, you know, didn't do enough and I wasn't enough. And so creating that new journal, that new memories, and plugging into what you did every night, like writing down 3 things I did incredible today. And I write things like, you know, even like, wow, my son came, I noticed these things, like he put his hand on me, or he gave me a hug for no reason at all. Or my daughter might say something funny and I'll write it down, because these make me feel good. I don't want to keep, you know, my old program was feeling bad all the time, like bad. Just did. Even something great going on, I made myself feel bad about it. So I don't want to keep thinking about, you know, the things that didn't work out. And of course we move through the challenges, but we get more curious than reactive. We just go, oh, that's interesting. My child said this about me. I wonder what that's about. And we look into it instead of going down, you know, it's my fault, because that will keep us stuck in that same pattern. And if we want to shift our paradigm and our patterns, we can't keep going there. It's just.
I love it. I've been, so I'm on a practice of improving my communication with my kids. So we just completed a new program that we're going to launch this week on Empowered Kids TV around communication. And so I'm practicing my communication skills from that program. And what I've done is, in my intention setting and in my visioning, once I got clear on how I wanted to communicate, I also gave myself permission to have a gazillion second chances. And so, because I have that old paradigm way of communicating, when I catch myself, I ask my kids for permission for a do-over. So I say, oops, can I have a do-over? And sometimes my son, like today he looked at me and he goes like why? Why do you need a do-over for that? It was fine. And I'm like, I know it was fine, but it wasn't the way I really wanted to say it. And I think what I noticed from him is that he realized that, hey, if mommy can give herself second chances, and she can do it again, maybe that's for all of us. And I think that was a beautiful part of the process.
And what I've noticed is, and you just saying that, do you see how fun it is? You're enjoying the communicating. It's not like a chore. It's not like, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to say that, I got to go by this script, you know? You're actually adding play into it, and they're learning through the process of play and fun. Like, oops, I did a doozy or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's priceless.
But I think what I love about it, in connection to what you're saying, Nina, is that it has prevented me from going to that place where I would have beat myself up. Because my old narrative would have taken me to, oh gosh, how many times you've done it over and over, you've learned the impact, you know what you're supposed to be doing, why can't you? And I would have gone down this rabbit hole, you know, that hole in the street in the poem.
Yes.
Way down the hole. And somehow there is something about saying, well, you deserve a second chance, to myself in each moment. There's a lot of self-compassion in there that allows me to just lean into the ease of trying again, rather than having to beat myself up.
Yeah. And then you can go, you know, you notice, oh, I'm going down that hole. Okay, I don't want to go. You know, you can say it out loud. I'm not going down the hole. I'm like, stop. You can, you know, some Dr. Joe Dispenza says, stop it. You say, stop it to yourself, you know, like, stop it. You need some kind of ritual to go, or you bite your tongue, and then you have a laugh about it. Because, you know, I used to have anxiety and panic attacks and in my 20s, and I had to stop myself going down those worst case scenarios, because I can so easily go there. You know, even like somebody else can take me down there. They'll say something and then I'm going down with them. So we need to go, and we are in charge of our inner terrain, our inner world. We can say, no, stop it, you know, and then, yes, give yourself a second chance, because we're all learning. We're constantly learning. And when we see it more in, I'm just learning, and we have that ease and that relaxed energy, we make it more fun and we make it learning. Instead of the program that's going to say you never do enough, you know, you're a mediocre parent, you know, and then what happens? You feel shit. And then you maybe don't say anything nice to your child, and then that impacts them, and we project our shit onto the child. And then, you know, the partner comes home, and then you're like, leave me alone, I need space. And it just like, and then you binge Netflix, and then you eat ice cream and shit. You know, it's constant loop of shit, basically.
I love it. But you're so right. It's self-fulfilling because we look for the evidence of where we've not lived up to our own expectations. And then because we look for the evidence, we play it out.
Yeah. And then we get proof. So you got proof. Oh, that proves the pattern or the paradigm that, yes, I am a horrible mother. Tick. And then like, or yes, I am this kind of person. I am not enough. And yeah, and we are constantly using external people, situations to confirm our identity. And the reality is, it's not who we truly are. Our identity is a whole lot of conditioned beliefs that were plugged in by not even ourselves, by our parents or our caregivers. It's not us. We never chose to be this way. You know, I was told I was shy, so I was quiet. I'm not really shy.
I love it.
My mum would call me Mouse. That's even my nickname.
You know what I love about it? It's that you're saying if you get clear on your narrative, then the narrative of others doesn't have to derail you. So like before we started tonight's talk, I was confessing that we had a little bit of an upset in our family. And I like to say being a parenting coach does not give you a magic wand, right? You're still in the trenches. And we had a bit of an upset, and it's 2 weeks in a row where we're having upset, and an upset in our family is generally very rare, but 2 weeks in a row feels like full on for me, you know. And my youngest son looked at me today and he goes, "You're supposed to be a parenting expert. Do something."
Oh, I love it.
And if I was not practicing having that vision of who I was and for myself, that could have easily taken me into the pothole where I would have stayed for the rest of the day. I'm such a bad parent. How can I even think I can tell other parents what to do? Look at the problem. I could have gone forever down the hole. But I took it in, and I was able to just kind of hold space for him and know his pain was just pouring out, and it actually had nothing to do with me, and just kind of give him that space rather than let it be a narrative for myself. And so I think the practice that you were talking about of consistently every day looking for your new wins, the things you've done, really validating the new vision you have for yourself is critical.
Because the brain is actually hardwired to look at what's missing, what's wrong. It's our, you know, like our primitive brain. So it's survival brain. So we need to start to shift it. And yeah, it's powerful. But also, you know, what I thought was, even if our children are at a lower vibration, our also job is not to drop down to their vibration. And it's so easy to do. You know, they're having a challenge. You know, and this is where we're allowing the external to dictate how we feel. Oh, they're in a pissed off mood, so I'm now pissed off. And this is where the work comes in.
And then we're in a spiral, right? And we're just doing the dance all the way down together. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. I just wanted to open the floor and just to see if anybody else had any more questions that we can ask.
No more questions from me, but really, I liked that part where you were saying how the identity that we have is not the identity that we choose, or like, you know, it's chosen for us. And I think that resonated with me quite deeply. And if anything that I take away from tonight, I think that's the most powerful thing for me as a parent, because our identity shapes the choices that we make and the decisions that we take on board as we navigate through life. And if we have an identity that's not empowering, it sets your child up for a more difficult experience. So I feel like that has been that was like a light bulb moment for me. You know, if I have that much power to shape my child's identity, then I need to be filling her up with as much confidence and love and you know, self-worth as possible. So I want to say thank you for that, because I never thought of it like that, ever thought of it like that. So that's powerful. So thank you.
Oh, no worries. I actually have like an identity where I'm like the mama bear, you know, like they're my cubs, and I like to get that energy of like, I've got it, and you know, whatever's going on, I'm there, and I'll wrap my arms around you. And I try and connect to that because, you know, there's been so many times I've been in that victim of this power play with my children. And when I create that image of being that bear, and, you know, I'm bigger than anything they're dishing out. So.
I love it. Nina, tell us more about where we can find out about your work.
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and my website's ninacruzconsciouscoaching.com. I got some free, I did a boot camp, conscious parenting boot camp a few weeks ago, so you can join that, and it's free videos. I went in live every day. And I've also got a 12-day program called 12 Days of Presence, which is just an email every day to help you get more present. Because for me, that's been a big muscle to work. Like my focus, I can get very chaotic and distracted easily. So for me to get really centered and focused was important, not only for that connection piece with myself, but with my children. And yeah, so it's all the general pathways to find me.
I love it, Nina. I just want to say thank you so much for tonight. This conversation was, I think, deeper than I expected us to go, but I love the places we went to, and really empowering with a lot of insights that I think we can take away. But for me, the part that I get really excited about is the actionable bits. Things that very tangible things that we can all take back to our families and start putting into practice so that we can begin to see the change we all want to see within our homes.
And you can also use it with your children. You can ask them to write their own vision, or their own, you know, what do they truly want? Nowadays, if my children want something, instead of going, oh, you can't have that, or you don't have the money, I'm like, how could you get it? You know, let's think about how we could get it, because nothing's off limits. And then you're creating that paradigm of expansion, of possibility. And, you know, the amount of times my kids want money and all of a sudden they find money. I don't do gaming areas, but we were going bowling, and they're in the gaming area and they're finding money and the tickets. And I'm like, oh my God. So they are so tapped in and tuned in. If they can start to connect to what they truly want and bring in those emotions, then, you know, they're powerful creators.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Nina. And I want to say thanks for everybody for joining us tonight.